And in the Waterloo region, more than 2,300 people are homeless now, and that's up double. You can't say these banks don't know what's really going on. Of course, they are aware of what's going on and how bad the situation is getting. Canada is in a GDP per capita depression right now, and we're going to get into all the data surrounding that, including what's going on with the housing market and the layoffs that are happening right across the board now. So real GDP per capita declines for a sixth consecutive quarter, household savings rise. So this is what the mainstream media had to say about this. The Canadian economy shrank on a per person basis for the sixth consecutive quarter as high interest rates continued to weigh on business investment. And the funny thing is that they're saying high interest rates are the cause for the drop. No, it's not the high immigration that has essentially caused the GDP per capita to decline so much, because that's really what's going on here. When you import lots of people into your country and then you don't have the economy to support them, well, guess what? Everybody's prosperity declines as a result. And that's exactly what we're seeing in Canada. Yet they're saying, oh, it's just high interest rates. That's what's going on here. So if you get into the GDP rate, the GDP growth rate has been abysmal anyway. You've seen it around zero. It's been negative on some quarters, and you've seen it just hovering literally 0.3%. That is not high GDP growth. And basically that is mostly entirely driven by government spending, as even the major banks aren't afraid to say right now. So the major banks, RBC in particular, coming out saying that they expect a supersized rate cut from the Bank of Canada on Wednesday. So we'll be covering it right here at the channel. So stay tuned if you want to hear about that. But that's what they're expecting. So Canadian GDP increased at the aggregate level, but once again failed to keep up with population. Real GDP showed 1% annualized growth, which is abysmal, but fell 1.7% on a per capita basis. So if we get into the per capita basis, this is what they're talking about here. But what you have to do is go back, and each one of these bars represents a year. And if you go all the way back to 2017, yes, we are talking about 2017, so 7 years ago, that is when you're at essentially the same as where we are right now. So 7 years, pretty much getting towards almost a decade of growth, has been erased, and it continues to be erased, and there's nothing showing that this is going to slow down at all. So it's very, very obviously concerning. If you're looking at the economy, the alarm bell should be going off in your head, and it's no wonder that you're seeing the Canadian dollar tanking and you're seeing all these things go bad. So you can see how GDP per person is falling. This isn't just an isolated thing as well. I just want to point out that the same thing is actually happening in the UK as well. Another country that has done high immigration for even longer is Canada, and is in a similar situation with the government making up the majority of the economy, along with a real estate bubble, and also they have the high immigration dynamic going on there. So extending RBC's concerns about the economy as the source of growth, the weak GDP growth was dependent entirely on government spending. This is a move typically only observed during a recession, when a state needs to create employment absent of private sector investment. That appears to be exactly what's happening here. So basically, you're seeing the government step in because nobody else wants to do it, because guess what? Productivity is falling. Nobody wants to invest in Canada. The business environment, the red tape, the regulation, that's all what is stopping companies coming here. I mean, take the airline sector as an example. You could have loads of airlines competing for different routes within Canada if you just remove that rule that basically means that you have to be a Canadian-owned company, a certain percentage, in order to fly within Canada, which is just totally ridiculous. But the airlines, they absolutely love it because they continue to gouge. And in the Waterloo region, more than 2,300 people are homeless now, and that's up double. So in 3 years, the number of people who are homeless in Waterloo region has doubled in a new report. A point-in-time count completed on October 22nd found 2,371 individuals said they were experiencing homelessness in the Waterloo region, and that's doubled. So again, what do you think is really going on here when you've got this happening? Because this isn't even like a massive city. This is Waterloo. This is one of the outlier cities where some people, if they're crazy enough, commute into the GTA. But its actual city within itself, it's been a little bit of a tech hub. There's been a lot of tech companies that base themselves there, like Google, for example. But when you look at the price of housing there, it is still completely insane. So take this, for example, just an average home of what a Canadian would probably aspire to own in a decent neighborhood, $1.3 million. Now, it's worth noting here that when you actually go down here, they tried to sell it for $1,425,000 in 2023, were unsuccessful, and now they're coming back a year later and they're trying to sell it for $1.325 million, $100,000 less, and that's in 1 year. So the housing prices going the wrong way there as well. And you saw lots of people move out of the Greater Toronto area to places like Waterloo, places like Windsor, places like London with their remote job. And guess what? Everybody's employment is at risk unless you're highly skilled in one of these in-demand jobs, which most people aren't, let's be frank here. Then the risk of becoming unemployed is going up and up and up and up, especially if you add no value and you're doing the job that pretty much anybody could do in any third world country and you're doing it remotely. Well, I would say your days are pretty much numbered there. And obviously during the pandemic, there was unbelievable amounts of stimulus that was put out. You've also got Cargill that is saying that they're going to be laying off people. And this is happening in the US, but they're actually announcing it across their global workforce. So that's going to affect places in Alberta, for instance. There's Cargill production factories in Alberta. So the layoffs are happening on a global scale here, and it's not just the Canadian economy. The Canadian economy is doing way worse than the US economy, but also those other economies, they're getting worse as well. And you can see that because guess what, guys? Dollarama is continuing to expand. So my buddy sent me this and thank you. But the thing is, when you're seeing stores like Dollarama that are expanding their operations, is that a sign of a really good economy? I don't think so. When you're seeing the dollar store that is expanding, obviously we know the dollar store was great during the 2008 recession. And then you've also got TD Bank. Their stock has sank again as they suspended guidance essentially. So TD stock sinks as bank suspends guidance amid review. This obviously comes after the money laundering review that was put in place with TD Bank, which we covered on this channel. Basically, they were fined by the US regulator a lot of money, and obviously now they're having this review of what's going on within the bank, and basically they're suspending guidance as a result of that. And obviously their operating leverage is extremely high, just as any Canadian bank. Any big bank in Canada is extremely leveraged, and they have a massive amount of loans that are outstanding, and the loan write-offs keep on going up. And the funny thing is, you've seen banks like RBC, CIBC, who are all toning down their credit loss provisions. I mean, these things are no more than virtue signaling anyway. We've said this before. If there's ever a major problem, those loan loss provisions ain't gonna cut it. But the funny thing is, they are actually toning down their loan loss provisions as if to think that things are gonna be better in the future. Meanwhile, you've got the same economists coming out with reports saying how bad the economy is. So, you can't say these banks don't know what's really going on. Of course, they are aware of what's going on and how bad the situation is getting. They are seeing those loan write-offs that are going up and up and up. They're seeing more and more people defaulting on their loans. The difference is a lot of the people think that the rate cuts are going to be somewhat stimulative. Again, people don't understand. First of all, there's a lag effect when it comes to these rate cuts. You're not going to see anything happen happen for at least 12, 18 months. We saw that with the rate hikes, so we know that's definitely a thing. And then you've also got the fact that rate cuts are being offset by unemployment going up, which is even more deflationary to the economy because it means people are spending less money. And that's exactly why household savings are rising, because people don't believe the economy is good right now. They think it's getting worse. They think they need to prepare for these bad times ahead. Unfortunately, most people aren't going to prepare enough. And that's why I would highly recommend that you have some sort of financial plan. If you want to do anything and it's totally free, just have a financial plan. I mean, it's simple as that. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd highly recommend that you check out this video here. If you're looking for a VPN and want to help support the channel, click the link right here or go to expressvpn.com/marketmania. I will see you in the next one. Take care.